What you need is a ping pong ball, which you cut in half and you paint on the front of your ping pong ball some rather scary eyes.
What about the teeth?
Oh, they're even easier. All they are is 2 bits of orange peel cut into the shape of some scary teeth, and you put them in your mouth, you put the eyes on, and the effect is really frightening.
Very good indeed. Very good.
And you can also horrify your hands.
Can you?
Yeah, like that, Fred.
Oh, that's good.
Fred,
Oh.
that wasn't my hand.
Well, it wasn't my hand.
How can you horrify your hands?
Well, it's really easy, and this is a really useful Halloween how. How about that for a horrible hand? How do you get horrible hands? Well, the first thing you need is a rubber glove. Thank you. Now, ask your mum if she's got an old pair that she hasn't been using in the kitchen for a while. Even if they're perished, that's perfect. Pair of rubber gloves. The next thing you need is a ball. So you take the ball like this, and you cut your ball along the inside and open it up till you've cut a row of petals right the way round. And then, with the scissors, right on cue. What a team. Yeah, OK, don't build up your part. You then cut off one of the petals like this and continue cutting all the way around. The next thing you need to do is, using some glue, thank you very much, is to attach some glue to the inside of the petal, as it were, like that. And then, returning to your rubber glove, you attach your petal onto the end of the finger like that, which turns it automatically into a rather hideous talon. Now, that's good, but not good enough. Next thing you need to do is to colour the hand. Now, when you spray your hand, it's very important to use ozone-friendly, of course, spray, but spray that you can use indoors, the sort of thing that you use for colouring Christmas decorations. Get about 6 inches away and give it a good spray. Yes, oh, you might need a hand to do this. And once that is complete, you will see that you truly do have a horrible hand.
Of course, all these things you make to make yourself look scary goes to prove my point. There's no such thing as ghosts or monsters. Rubbish. I say, did you hear anything?
I don't know, Fred. Did you?
I'm not sure, actually. What do you think?
How can I disappear behind a sheet of glass? Well, watch this. Now, I have a light on me. If a light's faded up on Gareth, you can see a happy, smiling hello.
How you doing?
Hello. Lovely Gareth. Now, how do we do this? Well, we do it quite simply with 2 lights and a sheet of glass. You are the other side of the glass to me. There's a light on me. If that light is faded down and the light on Gareth is faded up, then you can see half of me and half of Gareth. And eventually, as the light goes down on me, all you see is Gareth's reflection in the window. Now, this trick of raising lights up and down either side of a sheet of glass eventually became incorporated into a very famous theatrical performance known as Pepper's Ghost. And to demonstrate Pepper's Ghost in the How-To studio, I shall require 2 melodramatic, haunting, theatrical assistants.
Well,
Gareth and Fred, you'll do. Because now you see me, and now you don't.
Hey, how'd you do that?
Clever, isn't it? Now I'm back. Let me show you how. Because in between you and I, there is a sheet of glass, and in that you see my reflection, because really, I was sitting on a table over here. The light was reflected into the sheet of glass. You saw me behind the sheet of glass over here, and so by raising lights up and down over there, I appeared and disappeared, and that is how I can disappear behind a sheet of glass. Fred, Gaz, where have you gone?
Fred, are you sure this is safe?
Yes, of course it is, Gareth. Don't be superstitious.
Give me your wallet.
Yeah?
Thanks.
What for?
Well, if we see any ghosts, we can pay them off.
Get off. How can you avoid going to hell in China? You see, the Chinese are no different to us, really. When they die, they would far rather go up there and play their harps all day than they would go down there, where I'm told it's pretty hot and where you get chased around all day by a chap in a red suit who prods you up the bottom with his trident.
Terrible.
That's natural, isn't it? The problem for the Chinese, though, is that they believe it's not sufficient just to have led a pure and blameless life in order to get to heaven. Oh no. They believe when you die, your relatives have got to send money with you. Loads and loads and loads of money.
How do they do that then?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? You see, the postal service to hell is not very good. They won't take plastic, they won't take credit. So they believe when your relations die, you've got to burn money for the spirits. I mean, my Uncle Bertie's just died. Decent sort of fella. So I reckon $5,000 million
What?
ought to be enough.
5,000 million American dollars.
Chinese dollars.
Fridge.
But, I mean, it should be enough to get Bertie to
That's a
heaven.
lot of
the
money.
spirits should be pleased with that. But just to be on the safe side, let's just whack off another 500 for Uncle Bert as well. There you are, Bertie. Have a lovely time.
But you're not wealthy, you haven't got money to burn.
Ah, you see, the Chinese, being the inscrutable fellas they are, they realised the spirits were actually a little bit stupid. And therefore, if they burned fake money and sent that with their relatives, well, the spirits would never know the difference. It looks like real money, but it isn't. It is, in fact, hell money. It's written on the bottom there, hell bank money. So even today, as a kind of symbolic thing, when someone dies, they send hell bank money with them to make sure they go to heaven. And that's how you avoid going to hell in China.
Fred,
Yeah?
is this yours?
No, I'm still using mine.
Well, I wonder whose it is then.
Welcome to How, Denise. Now, what would you do with a skull like this?
When we first get a skull like this, we have to make a plaster cast of it. So we don't actually work on the real skull, but a copy.
So you wouldn't damage the skull in
That's
any way.
right.
Okay.
Next, we place 21 pegs like these at particular points on the skull. These are scientifically accurate and tell us just how thick the tissues of the face should be at different points on the head.
And would that thickness be the same for everybody?
Not for everybody, so we have to take a medium. The next stage is to actually start building up the muscles of the face. We use clay to do this. This is the masseter muscle, which is a very large muscle, and it helps you when you're chewing your food. This is the orbicularis oris, which is one of the muscles that you would use for smiling.
Oh, right. And then you keep adding those muscles.
We keep adding those till we actually get to the point we've added all the muscles.
That
So
looks
it's
quite
something like
gruesome at
this.
that stage, Denise.
Yes,
doesn't
at this stage it is rather gruesome, but it's the structure underneath is ready to take the skin and the fatty tissue layer
it? Okay.
to look something like this.
Ah, so now you've covered all the pegs up. It does look actually more like a face that we would recognise. Thank you very much, Denise. Well, now let's trace a bit of history. 25 years ago, archaeologists in Greece discovered a tomb, but they didn't know whose tomb it was, although evidence pointed to the fact that it might have been the tomb of the king Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander the Great, the conqueror of the then known world. Well, when the tomb was opened, fragments of skull were found, and plaster casts were made of those fragments and then pieced together to give the skull. And at this point it was discovered that great injury had occurred to the socket around the right eye. So using the techniques which Denise has just described, and then assuming that a terrible scar must have existed across this right eye, this is the terracotta result. But we wanted to make it more lifelike. So we've made a wax impression of the head and then added to that the fact that the person who lived around the Aegean must have had dark hair, dark eyes and sallow skin. But was it Philip of Macedon? Well, historians know that Philip, during one particular battle, did suffer a downward blow from an arrow, damaging his right eye, thus conclusively proving that this is, in fact, the father of Alexander the Great. So, with the help of Denise and experts like her, that is how we can come face to face with the dead.
Wow, Fred, what was that?
Fantastic, isn't it? Leads me nicely to the next how, which is how can you blow up a bubble? You see, what Gareth saw there was called will-o'-the-wisp. It's a perfectly natural phenomenon, nothing to do with being spooky at all. You see, when vegetation rots in boggy ground, it produces methane gas. And I've got some here, actually, which I'm going to bubble through some washing up liquid. Gareth, and also put the gloves on. Light a taper. Okay. Now watch these bubbles and you'll notice they rise, proving that gas is lighter than air. That you can actually burn gas. Okay, there you go. Well done. Wow, beautiful. Beautiful.
Did you hear something, Fred?
No.
Must be me then.
Hearing things. First sign of madness, that, Gareth. And as I recall, you're the expert on that.
How can you be drop-dead gorgeous? Our Carol is gorgeous, and she, like millions of other women around the world today, use makeup that's made of mostly natural and harmless ingredients. But it hasn't always been this way. In ancient Greece, you were considered beautiful if you had a pale complexion. If you had a tan, it meant that you'd been working out in the fields and were therefore low-born, working class. Women at this time would put a makeup called ceruse on their face, which certainly gave you a pale complexion, but unfortunately contained white lead, which was absorbed through the skin into the bloodstream, resulting in headaches, nausea, dizziness, paralysis, and eventual death. Oh dear. In Renaissance times, the 15th and 16th century, women were considered beautiful if they had bright, shiny eyes. So they used eye drops called... Unfortunately, the name implies was certainly deadly. It contained atropine, which made the eyes dilate and shine, but unfortunately caused blindness and could lead to death. Oh well, c'est la vie. In Elizabethan times, the 17th century, no freckles were the order of the day. Women used to put a compound called mercuric chloride on their face, which certainly removed freckles. However, it was absorbed into the skin, where it attacked the tissue and destroyed the central nervous system. In other words, you rotted away, went mad, and of course, died. Ancient cosmetics, you'd have to be mad just to use them. And that's how you can be actors. I tell you what, Fred, I've done a little bit of acting. Good luck. Oh, no, you don't say that, you see, Carol. You say, break a leg, lovey, instead.
But the greatest amount of superstition of all concerns a Shakespeare play. Just to utter the title of this play is said to invite disaster.
Don't you dare say it.
And it's called...
Don't say it. Don't say it, Fred. You can't say it.
What's it called?
It's called...
Don't say it, Fred.
Macbeth.
Oh, may fair thoughts and happy hours attend on you. We're in trouble now.
Fred, why did you do all that?
Let me explain. The reason Macbeth is considered to be unlucky is that it's claimed the witches' speeches are taken from real witches' spells. Therefore, to utter those words is, in effect, to invite evil into the theatre. Macbeth was first performed in 1606, when the actor playing Lady Macbeth went down with a nasty case of fever. It didn't appear again until 1611 at the Globe Theatre in London. A few days later, the theatre burnt down. Then it was banned and didn't return again until 1703 in Bristol. That coincided with some of the worst storms ever to hit Britain, and much of Bristol city centre, including the theatre, was absolutely destroyed. But even this century has seen its own catalogue of disasters. 1942, for example, Sir John Gielgud playing the lead. But it was wartime, and most of the young male actors in the cast were called up to serve king and country, and sadly, many of them never ever returned. One of the actresses who was playing the role of one of the witches, in fact, died of a heart attack a few days before the production opened, and the actress who replaced her died of a heart attack on stage. Well, I just can't see how saying a simple word like Macbeth could possibly be unlucky.
You shouldn't have mentioned that play, Fred.
What? Macbeth? Goodness sake, old boy, calm down. Have a nice drink.
What on earth is that?
It's a Frankenstein foamer.
You gave me the recipe.
Oh, I remember now. How do you make a witch's brew? Good, eh?
That's beautiful.
Carol, Fred, you'd like to join me in a witch's brew?
Love to. How very, very kind of you.
Pass one to Carol, if you'd be
Carol,
so
there you
very
are.
kind.
Thank you
Absolutely
so much.
delicious. A nice green one, I think.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers, you're very good at
Actually, I wouldn't drink that, and I'll explain why. Now, you've probably seen this effect in horror movies of this perpetually boiling drink. But how is it done? Well, the answer is carbon dioxide. Now, this is carbon dioxide, seen here in a frozen solid form. Now, water, if you freeze water, it turns to ice. Heat it up, it turns to water, the liquid. Heat it up again, and it turns to steam. Whereas carbon dioxide has no liquid state. It'll turn from a gas to being a solid if you freeze it down to minus 78.5 degrees C. Now, because it's warmer than that here in the house studio, it's actually turning straight back into being a gas. And you can't see that very well, but I can demonstrate. Now then, if I take a glass of coloured water and pop in a couple of pellets of CO2 in its solid form. Can you see the bubbles of CO2
yes.
rising through the glass?
That's amazing.
Now, but look what's happening. When the gas breaks the surface, it looks boiling hot. It's not actually boiling hot, it's boiling cold, because the gas itself is still cold as it turns from frozen, and what it does is chill the moisture in the air here, which turns it into cold fog. And because cold fog is cold, it'll actually fall rather than rise like steam. So that's how you make a witch's brew. But one other thing, back into a solid, it's very useful doing that because you get an awful lot of gas from a small amount of solid, which makes it very easy to transport around. So if I actually pop some pellets into this water here, I can show you how much gas you actually get from a solid by putting this balloon over.
Yeah.
If I hold it tight,
Oh, it's blowing up.
it should inflate the balloon. Can you see how much you get out? Isn't that good?
That's brilliant. Don't let it burst, please.
I shan't, I promise. I'm using CO2, carbon dioxide, or dry ice as they call it. That's how you make a witch's brew. But I have another part to this, how? How would Frankenstein do the washing up?
Join me in my kitchen laboratory and I shall demonstrate.
Now then, in this bowl I have CO2 pellets, dry ice pellets, okay? And in this bowl I have some water containing washing up liquid. What happens when I combine the two? Let's find out. Hey, look at that. What you've got is bubbles full of cold fog.
So that's how Hal went to the ghostly old graveyard.
And that's how for now. I tell you what, Fred, I think I'll pass on that drink.
Don't blame you, didn't fancy it myself.
Fred?
Well,
And for more brain bog, because Violet and dear old Gary
Scramble for cover. Timmy Mallet's on his way with